Today I'm gonna show you how to draw some lines, clip them and add texture to them, and then blend everything together and make it look realistic. Hey there, my name is Ali. Today's edit is gonna be a little bit lengthy. We're gonna use rocks and castles in this edit. I downloaded, as you can see here, several castle photos, these three, and several rock photos, but I guess I'm gonna use only this one for rocks and this one for castle because they look a bit similar. Okay, this is the idea I just drew. I drew this, as you can see here, everything on a separate layer. I just used the lasso tool and just started drawing some mountain shapes, something like that, and I add a color. Okay, this helps me find ideas and make ideas look better. For example, this first when I drew it, it was something like that, but after I looked and I saw my model, I moved it like that so that my model is somehow centralized between these, and then finally this rock in the middle at the end. Okay, I just noticed that. I'm just gonna color. Some parts are missing here. Okay, this is like my idea. So I'm gonna start now to put the rock texture on top of these drawings. First, I'm gonna pull this texture into like a new document. Yes, something like that. Then I wanna get rid of like the sky, everything which is not the rock texture. By using the quick selection tool, I'm gonna add layer mask. I want the opposite, so I'm gonna press Ctrl I. Then I'm gonna select the bottom part. Then I'm gonna paint black on the layer mask. And I'm gonna let me paint some white here, bring some parts back which were missing. Oh, I don't need his head, so I'm just gonna clone stamp from here till there. Okay, and then I'm gonna apply layer mask. So now we have this rock texture. I'm gonna drag it here, apply it. Okay. So now this is the rock texture. Let's start adding it on top of this one. Okay, first I need to decide where my light is gonna be coming from. Let me see. Okay, I'll have my light here, somewhere here on the right, and hitting like that. Let's do it through a layer. Something like that. This is like will be the brightest point somewhere here, and it will be doing some sort of a light like that. Okay, I'm gonna lock this layer. Okay, so this is gonna be somewhere here. I can like stretch it up, it's fine. Make it bigger because it's close to the camera. Something like that. Okay, I wanna know which layer is this. It's called layer 2. So I'm just gonna put this one on top of it like that. Control click on layer 2 and then press add layer mask. Okay, so now we have the mask. Now I'm gonna change this one to overlay or soft light. So overlay. Okay, now what you see is it's like too dark and like the color I don't like it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press Ctrl U and I'm just gonna lower the saturation. Something like that. Ctrl U again. I'm gonna only target reds. I don't want it's too reddish. I don't want it to be red. I want this environment to be somehow blue. Then I'm gonna press Ctrl B. I'm gonna go to the shadows, make it cyan. Cyan is opposite to red, and some blue. In the midtones also some cyan and some blue. And okay. Okay, so now, but now it's too strong. We have these like bad edges and all. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna using a brush. I'm gonna use the chalk brush actually. Chalk brush is good for cutting like rocks and all. Okay, because it's an overlay. Let's bring it back to normal for a second. And try to find like good cuts using the chalk brush. Try to follow like the rock formation. Whenever you have an edge in the rocks, you just cut over it, something like that. And this one, actually, I'm gonna remove it because here we're gonna have our like castle. And this one like that. And I guess we're good now. Let me bring it back to overlay. The thing is, the two are not matching now because I like erased some parts from here. So I'm just gonna press Control click on this one. This one. Okay. I press Control click on this one. So now I got the selection of the top layer. Now I'm gonna stand on the bottom layer. I'm gonna close this layer. I'm gonna sample this color by pressing Alt click. And I'm gonna paint by Alt backspace. Then I'm gonna press Control Shift I to give me inverse, and then I'm gonna delete. Control D. Now I have this perfectly matching on top of it. And I can lower the opacity now. This is why I leave two layers on top of each other, because I can control how much texture I have and how much clear this one is by lowering the opacity. If I make it 0, you just have something blank. If I increase the opacity, let's say 70%, I'll just have something like that, and we're good. One more thing I keep this in overlay is that because I can always stand on the layer below, lock it, then start playing around with colors, something like maybe a dark blue or dark cyan. And if I paint, you see, just let me take this one. Let's take a very dark like cyan. You see what happens if I paint with a low opacity? I can paint on the below layer and it will affect the top layer as well. Okay, so now I'm done with this part. It's time to add the castle. I'm gonna add the castle into a new document. Let me remove the sky using the magic wand. Mask, then Control I because I want the opposite. And let me take this one or that. Okay, this one. I'm gonna use the polygonal lasso tool. Something like that. Then I'm gonna hold Alt and drag this one. Oh, sorry, I was standing on the mask. You have to apply layer mask first. Then Alt and drag this one here. I'm gonna add it behind this one. And I'm gonna Control click it. I'm gonna stand on this layer. I'm gonna Alt click it to solo it. I'm gonna sample this color and paint. Oh, it's locked, sorry. And paint. Then I'm gonna Alt click to open it up again. And then I'm gonna put this one here, change it to overlay. Add layer mask. So now this one I need to blend it. I need to blend it with what's below. So with a very soft brush and the low opacity, I'm just gonna slowly erase the edge. Then I'm gonna stand on the layer, Control U to desaturate it. This one is darker than that one, so I'm gonna press Control M. I'm gonna increase the brightness a little bit. Then Control B and add some cyan and some blue to it. And now we have like the first one. I can also lower the opacity like we did in that one. Okay, so now we're done with this one. Let's jump to the second one, the big one here. Okay, this one now, it's gonna be really small. So I need to make it like bigger. So first I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger like that. Then in order to like increase the texture without making it actually bigger is by holding Alt and just dragging it somewhere, let's say like that. And let me just like put it anywhere like this. I'm gonna put it below and I'm gonna stand on the top one. You see the edge here? I'm just gonna using the eraser, soft eraser. I'm just gonna erase the edge to blend them together. Something like that. Control E, Alt click again, then just erase the edge like that. Control E to merge them. Alt click. This is the way. Another way is by pressing S. Make sure you're on current layer. This is like clone stamping. I'm gonna delete this one for now. Okay, the light. Okay, by pressing S, which is clone stamp, you sample from here and you start painting the same texture here and there. So now we have like a lot of texture from this one. It needs to be covering the whole 3 one. So control click on 3, add layer mask. So now I have the layer mask of the texture. But the thing is, I need to first, like we did before, desaturate it. I need to make it a little bit darker, something like that. Then I need to make it cyan and blue in the shadows, just like I did to the other one. Then I'm gonna change it to overlay, and I'm just gonna lower the opacity something to 70 or even less. And like we said, here we need to add our castle. So I'm gonna go to this one. Let me add now the big one here. Okay. If I want to extend this one, I can just go to the rectangular marquee, select this part, hold Alt and sorry, is to go to the move tool, hold Alt and just drag it like levels below. So now it's like taller. Okay, I'll make this one something like that. And I'm gonna change it to overlay. And I'm gonna control click it. Then I'm gonna solo this layer below. I'm gonna sample this color. You solo by pressing Alt click on the eye and paint. So now I have the same painting. Then I'm gonna unsolo it again by Alt click. Then I'm gonna stand on this layer and I'm gonna Alt backspace delete, leaving only the castle on top. So now I only have the castle on top. Control U to desaturate it. Control M to increase its brightness a little bit. Control B to add some cyan, some blue, and okay. And let me now lower the opacity. Okay. Now in this layer, I can add a layer mask. And I can slightly erase the edges here and there. And I'm gonna stand on this one. And I'm gonna bring back some of the mountain here and there. You see now I'm blending them both together. So it's not like that obvious that it doesn't belong to the mountain. There are another actually easy way to do it. You can just stand on the mountain layer, make a copy on top, apply layer mask, and just put the mountain on top of the castle and just alt click. So now it's only affecting the castle. So now I have the mountain texture. Let's make it smaller. Now I have the mountain texture on top of the castle. So this is another way like to make it more look like the mountain. It's actually better like that. I'm gonna leave it like that. Okay, now one thing you always need to do is by standing on this layer, this is the mask we have here. This one, sorry. I'm gonna take the blur tool and I'm gonna blur the edges. Just make sure you blur all the edges because this is very sharp edge. And then this one, I'm gonna blur also the edges on the mask. Let me go to that one also. This one, just blur the edges on any mask you do so that we don't have these very sharp edges. Okay. I'm not gonna do anything now to them yet. Like there are still a lot of things to be done, but I'm gonna first add textures to all, then I'm gonna play around. Okay. Let me grab another texture here. Let me put it on top of this one. Let me pull it down like that. And let's control click, add layer mask, control U, desaturate, control B, and add some cyan, some blue, some cyan, some blue, some cyan, some blue. And this one, it's far away from the background. So it's really important to do that. You press Control M for the curves. And you take this black, you pull it up. Because whenever things are far away from the background, they should have very low contrast. So I'm taking the blacks, pulling them up. I'm taking the whites, pulling them down. So this reduces the contrast in the image. And then I'm going to change it to overlay. But it's too bright, I guess, and too colorful. So I'm gonna fix that by making it a little bit darker, something like that. And I'm gonna control U, take a little bit of the color from it. But now it's, I believe, a little bit too bright, so control M. And sorry, dark, and a little bit of brightness. Okay, we're still gonna fix it like way better. Now let's immediately stand on the mask and just blur it. Stand on the layer below the mask and blur it as well. Okay, now it's time to go to the castle. Let's take a small one, for example, like that. And I'm gonna copy it here. But this one needs a little bit of adjustment. Something like that. And let me control click this one. Let's solo this one first. Let's control click the castle. And let me sample this color and alt backspace. And I'm just gonna like select inverse and erase these extras which I drew first. Okay, so now I only have the castle. Let's change it. It's on overlay already. Let me desaturate it. Oh, sorry, this one. Overlay, then desaturate it. Make it a little bit brighter. And okay. Now we have this mountain. It's overlapping the castle, so I'm just gonna control click the castle. Make sure it's only on top of the castle. Control Shift I to inverse and delete it from here and there. So now I have the mountain only on that castle. Okay, let's do the same to the final ones. This one, let's find this, put it here. I'm gonna flip it around actually, like that. Which layer is that? It's 5, so control click on layer 5 to get the selection. Stand on this, add layer mask. Then stand on the layer, control U, desaturate it, make it a little bit darker. Control M, pull this one up, pull this one down like that. Change it to overlay. Add some blue and cyan to it. And now it's time to take the blur tool and just blur the edge. And here also blur the edge. And then of course lowering the opacity. And this one we forgot actually to lower the opacity. And for the castle as well here, lower the opacity. Something like that. Okay. Now the final two. I'm just gonna pull this one like that. And another copy here for now. Let's close this one. Let's take this one. This one is layer 7. So I'm gonna put 15 on top of 7. Yeah, I find the layers actually, some people ask me if you want to sample this layer, just hold control. You see what control does? It opens the auto select and click. It will automatically jump to the layer you want. So on this layer 7 I wanted, I control clicked, it told me layer 7, I put this layer on top of it, open it, control click layer 7, stand on this one, add layer mask, stand on the layer itself, control U, desaturate, darken a little bit, control M, pull this one up, pull this one down, change it to overlay, and lower the opacity. And yeah, blur. Let's not forget the blur. It's just like simple steps you need to do with everyone just to make sure things look realistic. Blur. Let's now stand. Final one is 6. I blurred it now. Let's put this one on top of it. Control click and add layer mask. Let's do the control U, darkness, control M. Make it like that and then change it to overlay. And I guess now we're done with adding the layers and like the textures and everything. Okay, now it's time to add the sky. I'm gonna actually show you how to draw a sky in this one. Okay, so I'm gonna take any sky color, let's say something like that. I'm gonna use my soft brush. Let me first open the color menu. So now we have the color menu. I press X on the keyboard to change between colors. This is gonna be really important when drawing the sky. So let's just color a little bit. This is too colorful. something like that. This is my sky, and I want a, let's say, a dark sky. Let's make it a night environment. That's too colorful. You move left and right to make it more colorful and less colorful. Up and down to make it bright and dark. So let's say something like that. Oh, that's brighter. Oh, this is too bright. Okay, so now we have like some sort of a sky. It doesn't really match what we did here because like I didn't put in consideration it will be dark sky, so that's why I made these ones go bright as they go to the sky. But I'm gonna make it work. Okay, so now it's time to add clouds. My brush sets are always linked in the description below, so you can download them and like, so you can follow along with the. I like to like keep using different clouds here and there, just like keep doing and keep changing also the color of the clouds because not all the clouds are too bright. Where are the clouds? Okay, here. Let's make a very bright one here on top. Let's make it like a very foggy environment. And here, as you can see now, we have like some sort of a realistic sky. The final thing I need to do is, let's take the dodge and burn tool. If I dodge here, I'm gonna make this area brighter. Let's dodge here because here we said we have our source of light, and I'm gonna go to the burn, and I'm gonna burn the top part here. Let me put it to shadows with a very low opacity and just burn the top parts. So now we have our sky. Okay, but the sky is too blue and these I didn't make them that blue, but still we're gonna fix them. Okay, so we need to match the color of all of these with the color of the sky. So let's group all these together. Let me add a curves adjustment layer. Let's go to the red channel. Let's pull a little bit down. Let's go to the blue channel. Let's pull a little bit of blue. This is like adding blue to them. Oh, but I have to link it first, sorry. Just link it first. Yeah, and add some blue more to the highlights actually, because the ones far away should have more of the blue color than the ones close here. And in the red also, let me make this one more to the highlights. Yeah, something like that. So now we have an issue with this one. This one is too bright compared to the sky, so I'm just gonna Control M, bring down its color a little bit, Control B, add some cyan and some blue. Let's take this one as well, Control M, something like that, add some cyan, some blue, this one as well, some blue, this one, some blue. I just Control click, then Control B and add the color I want. Control click, Control B, add the color I want. Okay, so now we have our sky. I need to add on top of the sky. Actually, I'm like I like to enhance the source of light here. I want this to be like my source of light. Okay, now let's start adjusting our layers. Let's start from back. This one is the first layer, which is this one is below of it, behind of it, this one. And this one is an overlay. So if I color on top of this one, it's gonna affect the one on top. So I'm just gonna sample this color here of the highlights. We have the light coming from here. I'm just gonna sample this color, but just with lower opacity and brighter value. And I'm just gonna color like that. That's too much of a color. So I'm gonna desaturate a little bit and I'm gonna color like that. Okay, so we have it here. And one more thing you do to make it more realistic is these two are the layers. I'm gonna group them. Okay, let's call it far away and add mask to it. Now I'm just gonna slowly erase this edge and that edge as well, just erasing a little bit of what's down, and maybe switch to a cloud brush and erase somehow that the clouds are overlapping it. See, now it looks realistic with the sky. So just erasing it because this is so far away from the background. So between you and between this one, there's a lot of layers of atmosphere. That's why it should be behind the atmosphere. You can also lower the opacity of the whole thing. So this one, it's pushed far away now. We succeeded at pushing it. Let's go to that one. This one is these two layers together combined. Let's group them. Let's stand on the layer below. Let's lock transparent pixels. And now let me sample a color from here. And let me just color this edge like that. And let me take a dark color like that maybe. Color this area with it. Because like we have from here light, we have from here opposite of light, which is shadow. Okay, then stand on this layer. Let's call it far away and then put that arrow so we can signal it's the one on the right. Then add a layer mask and slowly erase some of it, especially on this edge, and switch to a cloud brush and just erase. I don't like this cloud brush. Let's try this one. Erase some like that, and you can lower the opacity to push it away. So now we succeeded with these two. Let's do the same, apply the same to the other layers, this one and that one. Okay, let's group them. Let's on top of this one, let's close it like that. Let's sample a color from here and let me color like that. Color just the edge. Okay, the edge is going blue because of this layer actually. I'm gonna delete this one for now. On this one, it's locked. Okay, let's desaturate and let me just add some highlights. And let's close this one like that. Let's mask it. And let me erase some of the edges here and there. And lower the opacity. Okay, no, I'm not gonna lower the opacity, and I'm gonna bring back this area because I don't want that edge to appear. I'm gonna actually darken. So we have this one here. I'm gonna stand on the dodge burn tool and I'm gonna darken this area like that. And I don't like this one. I'm just like, let me delete layer mask. I'm gonna try doing it again. I'm gonna sample this color and I'm just gonna color it with the same color all over again and unsolo it. Okay, let's try a different way to do it. The best thing about Photoshop is that you can always like undo and try to fix things again. Okay, I'm gonna add like, let's curves adjustment on top of everything. I'm gonna brighten something like that, and I'm gonna add some cyan and some blue to the highlights, and I'm gonna press Ctrl I. So this is now invisible. Whenever I paint white, it's gonna be brought back visible. So I'm gonna only paint white on the edges like that. Only the edges. I'm gonna Ctrl J to make another duplicate, delete layer mask, link it. But this one, I'm gonna make it so bright, something like that. And add some blue to it. Control I, add layer mask first. Control I to make it invisible. And then using a white brush, I'm just gonna color halfway through, something like that. Okay, it needs some cyan, I guess. Add some cyan. Okay. Okay, now this one also needs more cyan. Oh no. The whole mountain needs cyan, so Control B and add some cyan just to match the color of the sky. Let me lower the opacity of this one. Okay, let's add another curves adjustment layer on top of the group. This time I'm gonna darken, but then I'm gonna press Ctrl I to make it invisible, and I'm gonna bring it back only at the parts opposite to the light. Something like that. I'm gonna darken even more. Let's darken from here and from here. Okay, I'm gonna like add the white by Alt backspace, and then add black, sorry, and then with a low opacity I'm just gonna bring some here. Okay, one more thing I can do is on top of these I'll add a layer. This layer I'm gonna sample this color. Let's try this one out and just color the edges, sample this color, and just color the edges with that color, with the light color. Just take colors from the background and just color it with, and you can always lower like the opacity of this one if it's too strong. Okay, let's go to this one. This one is that layer, sorry, this. Oh, this is the castle and this. Okay, these three, let's group them. It's that one. Okay, what we're gonna do is we start by okay, this one needs some cyan. Okay, let's add a layer on top of it, link it. Let's take that color and let's just color the edge with it. And even here it should have like some stroke of light coming like from that way, something like that. And here the same. Okay, add another layer, link it. Let's take a darker color, something like that, and just paint the opposite, this and that part. Okay. Okay, good. Now I'm done with this one. Let's take that one, add some cyan, it's too reddish, and this one also add some cyan. This one, sorry, add some cyan, too reddish. And this, and this. These are 4 of them. Let's group them. Okay, let's add a layer on top, link it. Let's take this color and let's color the edge. Let me just desaturate it a little bit. Let's take this color and just like, I want to color it like that so that we have light hitting the edges. And of course I'm just gonna bring the opacity down very strongly. Add another layer. This time I'll go very precise with this layer. I'm gonna very slowly just like color the very edges. Something like that. And then lower the opacity. Maybe another layer with a dark color and just paint the opposite. Another layer with the bright color, and I want to add some details of brightness. Just lower its opacity a little bit. Some details here and there. Okay, so now this looks like the light is coming from here. Okay, one more thing I should do to this group is I'm gonna sample this group actually. I wanna make a selection of the whole thing. I make selection by control click this one, then control shift click this one to add this one. Why? So that I'm gonna stand on this layer. Okay, it's not standing on it because of these layers on top, so I'm gonna stand on this one now. This one is that one. So I'm gonna delete from here the pixels, and I'm gonna stand on this one, and I'm gonna paint with black. So now I deleted, I'll show you. If I close this one now I deleted whatever is behind this one, so that if I can lower the opacity of this one, as you can see, or just add a layer mask and start erasing the parts which I don't want, which are here on the top. I need to like put clouds overlapping this one here and there, so I'm just gonna erase some of it here. That's too much. Some here also from the edge. Okay, so now you see the clouds here are overlapping it, making it more realistic. Okay, it's time to do this one, which is the last one. It's this, that, and this. Okay, these three together. I'm gonna group them. And I'm gonna add a layer on top of the group. Link it. You link it by holding Alt and pressing click. And I'm just gonna sample a very bright color and start coloring the edges. The light should be it's too colorful, I don't want it. I'm gonna delete it, add a new layer, link it. I don't want it to be so colorful. And just the edges. And I'm gonna erase it like from the castle. And lower the opacity. Another one, this one is like the precise one where I'll zoom in and just do it carefully on the edges only. Okay, and lower the opacity, and another layer with the dark color, and just like paint with it here, just to add some dark color here and there. Okay, that's it for the castles. It's time like to play around the whole thing and make it more realistic. Here first we have a very big problem. This is too bright, this is too dark. So the problem with these fog layers, when I try to control click this one to sample it, it's gonna sample the fog on top of them. So always lock these layers with the move one. So when I control click here, it's gonna give me that one, sorry. It's gonna give me that one. Okay, so on top of this group, I'm gonna add a layer. I'm gonna give it a violet color. And then I'm just gonna, let's take any cloud brush or fog brush. I'm gonna take a fog brush actually this time. And I'm gonna sample any color and I'm just gonna add some fog. Like that. Lower the opacity. Some fog also here. Here as well. This fog is what's gonna make the photo realistic. Lower the opacity. And this one, let's grab it. Okay, let's, like I told you, you have to lock them in order to be able to grab the layer. Here. On top of this one, I'm gonna add a layer to do the fog, but now I'm gonna go with like a darker desaturated fog. And you can also use like play around with some clouds. Some fog here and there. Okay. Finally, we need to put fog in the foreground. So on top of everything, I'm gonna add a new layer. But this fog is gonna, it should be dark actually. Something like that. So I'm using a dark color. And here some cloud brushes, a little bit brighter. No, that's too bright. Let's go something like that, something like this. Let me just darken it a little bit and lower its opacity. I'll change it to violet so I can know which layer is this. As you can see here, we added some variation. Okay, again, let me add a new layer. This time I'm just gonna sample a color from here. I'm gonna take a brush, a normal brush, and I'm gonna sample a very bright color, and I'm gonna use low flow. I wanna draw like a beam of light. I'm gonna use even lower opacity and lower flow. I don't want it to be that visible. So we have here some sort of like light coming from that area. Then you can either make it brighter and like paint here, make it brighter, and finally like paint here and there. So this is like the brightest point in the image. So you see this light? We created some sort of light coming from here all the way to there. Okay. We forgot actually about the man. It's too dynamic. Okay, magic wand tool. I'm gonna select. I'm gonna remove the wrong selection from his hair. I'm gonna go back to the magic wand, shift and add this area, And let's see what's gonna happen when we add layer mask. Let's give the opposite by Control I. And using a brush, a black brush, 100% opacity. Just erase the wrong parts. And apply layer mask. Let's put him behind the colors we made, the fog and everything. This is the man. I'm gonna make him smaller. The best thing about Photoshop, I can fix actually this man's posture by going to image puppet warp. I can add like 2 points here and fix like his very bent legs. Make him as if he's just standing and his cloak is flying. Let's put him here. Let's go back to puppet warp. I make it by a hotkey which is Control P. I made it that hotkey. Usually Control P is for print. I'm trying to fix like the position of the cloak. Something like that. Okay. Then one thing I want to do actually with this one, I'm gonna take the dodge and burn. Dodge to make things brighter. I'm gonna dodge this part. And I'm gonna burn by holding Alt. If you hold Alt, you start burning. If you don't hold Alt, burn this part so it looks more circular and more natural. So now we have our model. The only thing we need to do, I guess, is flip him horizontal because the light is coming this way and he's lit from that side. And let's darken him up a little bit, something like that. If you want to know how to like make things like that using hotkeys and all, just go to image adjustments. Next to every one, you'll find the hotkey for it. Make sure you know them. It will help you like work much faster. Okay. Let's make him a little bit smaller. because like as you can see the castle here, he must be like much smaller, something like that. Always look in the navigator here top right to see how you're doing. I don't like the cloak actually. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the lasso tool and I'm just gonna select it like that, Control T, move the pivot point by holding Alt click till here, and I'm just gonna pull the cloak all the way down, rotate it a little bit like that, and enter Control D. So now the cloak is next to him, it's not flying that much. Okay, let me take a look. What else could we do? Let me stand on this one actually. This one. I'm just gonna lower its opacity a little bit. The texture is too strong here also. The texture is too strong. Just lower the opacity. Okay. It's time to do our final adjustments on top of everything. I'm gonna add a curves adjustment layer. Make sure it's on top of everything. I'm gonna pull the blacks up, pull the shadows down, and make the highlights even brighter. Something like that. But now the whole image is a bit too dark, so I'm just gonna brighten up everything again. From the middle, just a little bit of brightness to everything. This is the fog. I'm gonna lower its opacity. I believe it's too strong. Okay, then I'm gonna go to curves adjustment layer. In the reds, I'm gonna add cyan in the highlights, so a little bit of cyan in the highlights. In the blue, I'm gonna add, let's try the yellow. No, I'm gonna add blue in the shadows. Some blue. And let's see what will the green do if we add it this way or that way. This is like magenta. This is the opposite, which is green. Some green. Okay, so this is the coloring we made. Okay. I always like, this is just for fun. I like to do that. I add a black and white layer. Just to see how my image look like. Without colors, actually. I don't know what these handles do, actually. Just like I like to do it before seeing the values of the photo. Okay, let's add a gradient map. Gradient map works by having two colors, one in the shadows, one in the highlights, and you can have something in between. So, dark blue in the shadows, white in the highlights, of course, and here a very bright cyan. So the photo is gonna go from blue to bright cyan to like a very, very bright cyan. Okay, okay. And let's lower the opacity of this one. This is like, and let's try putting it to overlay and to soft light. I like soft light more. And that's it. Okay. Now I'm gonna hold Control Alt Shift press E. This will merge everything into a new separate layer. Now I can go to filter, camera raw filter. I want to bring attraction to that area with the guy and the light. So I'm gonna draw a radial filter. Something like that. From the light to the guy. I'm gonna do the opposite color. Like here we have blues and cyans. I'm gonna add it only with yellow. Also, that's too strong. Okay, something just a bit of yellow. Okay, and as you can see, I'm brightening things up. I'm increasing contrast, increasing anything related to brightness. This is darkening. I don't want that. I want that to be 0. And I'm increasing the clarity, making things like more clear. And I'll just leave that as it is and press OK. So now I made everything here clearer and brighter, so eyes will be attracted more to that area. Again, I'm gonna jump to the camera raw filter. This time I'll do something with the brush. Make sure everything is 0 first. And what I want to do is I'm gonna dehaze and reduce clarity. These are parts where I don't want eyes to be attracted to. So whenever I'll paint now, this area is gonna be less clear and it will dehaze. All the sky needs like to be less clear and dehaze these areas. These are the areas where I don't want the eyes to be attracted to. Basically like the opposite of what we just did before. And okay. Uh, it went too strong with the dehaze, I guess. So I'll control Z, camera raw filter. I'll do the same, but I'll darken a little bit and I'll not use that much value of dehaze. And let's do the same. Along with that, okay, so that's better. Let's go back to camera raw filter. Let's go to the FX module. This is the dehaze. We can like, I'll increase it a little bit and add a little bit of vignette. Vignette is a black circle, as you can see around the photo, just to increase the attention to the middle part. And I'm gonna press OK. Final touches is a new layer with overlay mode. Go to the brush, sample the color of the highlight with a very low flow and a low opacity. I'm just gonna add some highlights to my photo. Just at the very edges, add some highlights. Even the clouds, you can add like highlights to the clouds. Highlights to the man. Just make this whole area full of highlights. Some highlights here, some there, some here, and some like that. Okay, let me show you this one. As you can see, it makes a lot of like interesting highlights to your image, and you can lower the opacity. The final thing is just a new layer. This is like to blend everything together. A new layer, and just hold Alt click and remove your hand from Alt and click. So basically you're sampling a color from here and painting with it on top of everything. So this just mixes everything together. So I'm just like using the same color and coloring with it. Not like the color sample by Alt click, remove Alt, press a click. Then sample, Alt click, remove Alt, press click. Sample, Alt click, remove Alt, press click. Okay, so what it does, as you can see, it softens the whole photo and blends everything together and lower the opacity. And that's it for today's tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you put them in the question section down below. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys.